Hello everyone, Luciano Oliveira, Oliveira Lawyers. Today is Wednesday, May the 22nd, 12:30 now, Rio de Janeiro time. Thank you so much for showing up. I see we have some of our friends already in and even likes. Thank you so much. The likes do help with our live stream and the recordings of our live streams as well. All right, we got Bill. Bill, so good to see you here. Bill says, Oi Luciano, tudo bem? When can you get the guy from Nomads Without Limits? Bill, that's a good question, Bill. So, yes, I spoke with him a couple of times. I know he's quite busy. I don't know, maybe he got enough, you know, clients and he doesn't need anymore, but I do ping him every now and then, and hopefully eventually he's gonna show up. But what I can do, Bill, is to share. I can actually share his contact information, and then you guys, digital nomad without limits. Let me see if I can share his contact information. And yes, I'm gonna share. And I did see some recordings that he did with his clients, and it looks like people do have a blast. They do have a blast. Digital. They do have a blast with him. I'm gonna find his contact information throughout the live stream, and I'm gonna share with you guys. But it's good to see that you guys, still remember about digital nomads. Actually, nomads without limits, Bill. That's a good idea to share his information over here. All right, we have a Charles Martin. The volume on the screen is very low. However, good to see you again. Let me see if I can make it a little louder. Hello there. Hello there. Yes, there is something. Thank you for letting me know. Let me check here the configuration. It looks like it's not sourcing. It's not sourcing from the correct mic. Let me see if I can change. That's interesting. Like, I mean, the mic is configured correctly over here. Hello there. What about Bill? How is the sound for you, Bill? All right, I'm gonna be trying to fix the sound over here. You guys let me know if it does improve. If it does improve eventually. I use, for those who know equipment, I do use. Sound is very good. Bill is saying. Yeah, let's keep as is, like as long as you guys can hear me. I can certainly double check. So thank you very much, Bill and Charles as well, for feedback on the sound. Yeah, I just found the contact information for James, and I'm gonna do here Nomad Without Limits. James Weldon. Okay, so here you go, Bill. I think you guys can, if you guys are familiar with WhatsApp, I know that James, he does use WhatsApp, and for those who do not know, WhatsApp is super used in Brazil. There is nothing that people are going to use more than WhatsApp in Brazil, which is very interesting because WhatsApp is owned by Facebook, And in the United States, almost nobody uses WhatsApp. But in Brazil, just to give you an idea, like if you are hiring a service, if you are getting quotes, if you are interacting with Brazilian businesses, the preferred channel for both customers and the business is going to be WhatsApp. Okay, so therefore, usually people who are entering the Brazilian markets with a business, or even people who are getting started on their journeys in Brazil, using WhatsApp is a great way for you to improve communication with Brazilians. Okay, Ronald Pennington, can the digital nomad visa be done in Brazil, and how long would it take? Yes, Ronald, and as a matter of fact, like I would say 95% of our digital nomad applications, they are done in Brazil, and only 5% is going to be done abroad at a consulate. And the reason for that is, like, when you apply to a consulate, you're going to have to present a health insurance with coverage in Brazil. And in our experience, most health insurances, they are not going to have coverage in Brazil. And therefore, most applicants, they are going to prefer to apply while you're in Brazil. There is a silly distinction. It's more like on the technical side, I don't think it makes much of a difference. But when you apply abroad, that's when you actually get a visa, right? Meaning that you're going to have something stamped on your passport. If you are applying in Brazil, there is no visa because there is nothing being stamped on your passport. In Brazil, instead, you're going to get a resident card, right? So because of this dynamic, people from the immigration industry, more particularly attorneys and professionals operating in this space, they are going to say, well, if you're getting abroad, you're getting a visa, but if you're getting in Brazil, you are actually getting a residency. So digital nomad visa abroad and digital nomad residency when in Brazil, again, it's just a technical aspect of the application. But yes, it's not only possible, but that's actually our preferred route for digital nomad applications, Ronald. Second part of your question, how long it takes. Nowadays, for the immigration to review an application while you're in Brazil, is taking a couple of months. Some applicants are going to say, well, that's too long. I cannot wait because, as you probably know, I'm just getting 90 days and now I am 30 days in Brazil. So I just have 60 days. So, how would that work for me? And the answer is, once you file an application, you actually stop the clock, meaning that for the duration of the application review, you are legally authorized to stay in Brazil until there is a decision on your application. And therefore, even if it takes a couple of months or 3 months, it means that you can stay legally in Brazil while you wait for the results. It does happen kind of often that some of our clients, they're going to have some issue abroad to take care of. It could be related to business, it could be related to family, it could be personal. And our recommendation is for them usually not to travel, right? Because you are waiting for the immigration results. So we say, listen, don't travel if you are able to postpone whatever you're planning. However, again, in some circumstances, they are not going to be able to avoid. And then they do travel abroad. And then when they come back, we prepare a package for them to present at the customs. As soon as they arrive in Brazil, they are going to go through immigration. Our usual recommendation is, listen, don't say anything, just listen. And if the immigration officer just let you come in, you're good. If they say something like, okay, it looks like you expired your allowed days in Brazil, that's when you're going to produce You're going to produce the documents that we shared up front with you. You're going to present the documents to the immigration officer. And so far, we never had a situation in which the foreign citizen would not be allowed to enter the country. As you probably expect, there is no way for us to tell that this is 100% guaranteed, because at the end of the day, Brazilian immigration has discretion in terms of allowing someone to enter or not to the country. But what I can tell you is, for every single client of ours who have traveled abroad and returned during the processing of a residency application, they were just fine. Okay, worst case scenario, it was for someone to wait like for an hour until an immigration officer was back from lunch to release the client, and let him in Brazil. But we never had a situation in which someone would be denied entry. There is always the possibility of this happening, but thank God that that hasn't happened as of today. All right, we have Jerry 2001. Welcome, Jerry. Jerry is a returning member of our audience. It's good to see you here, Jerry. With the investor visa of minimum purchase of 1 million reais, can I purchase 2 apartments that are still under construction? And can I apply for an investor visa before the build is completed? Jerry, that's a great question. That's actually one of the few exceptions to the requirement of you buying a property with a construction on it. So the general rule applicable for everyone is like you're not gonna buy a property in Brazil unless there is a construction on the land and the construction is recorded at the deed. Super common in the Northeast. People are going to buy land, they are going to build a house, but they are not going to record the house because they want to avoid paying taxes, unfortunately. And then when they want to sell, you cannot buy that property because that property is not going to qualify for the golden visa. However, there is an exception. If you are buying an apartment from a large developer and you can get the paperwork showing that the developer has an authorization to do like the pre-construction of the apartments with all the licenses, and we call it like memorial of incorporation. So if they do have all the paperwork, you could buy the property like under the pre-construction approach and apply for the golden visa even before the building is finished up. Okay, but that's an exception. And I like to tell, our clients when they have a consultation with us, I say, listen, just make sure you're buying from a major developer, because of course, like a major developer, they are going to go through audits, and they are going to be they are going to be researched by the public authorities to see if they have all the paperwork. So as long as you're buying from a major developer, chances are you're going to be buying a property that's going to qualify. I would still recommend at least a consultation to review the deed of the pre-construction project, as well as the paperwork, to make sure that you're going to be able to get the golden visa after the application. Another nuance, Jerry, is that you're not going to be able to apply until you send all the money. All right. So yes, you can apply before the building is ready, but you cannot apply before you pay the price. Okay. A lot of people, they're going to say, well, but why would I pay if the thing is not ready? The immigration is separated from the real estate transaction, right? So for the immigration, they're going to say, listen, unless I see your money coming from abroad into Brazil, you're not going to get the visa. But yes, if you send the money, if you're buying a pre-construction and you have all the paperwork, we could apply for the golden visa even before the property is ready. Again, as long as you're paying the minimum 1 million reais. In terms of finance, you cannot finance the minimum requirement. but you can finance like an amount in excess. So we have a new client from the US, and he didn't want to get the golden visa, and he was actually applying for the digital nomad, but he's trying to actually have a business in Brazil. And the digital nomad alone, it does not allow you to work in Brazil, as you probably know. It just allows you to work from abroad. So now he said, listen, I want to buy a property in Rio de Janeiro, in Ipanema, but R1 million is not going to get me what I want. So I can bring the R1 million to meet the requirement, but I want something probably more expensive, like maybe no more than a couple of blocks from the beach, which probably is going to cost him like 2.5 million reais or 3 million reais. So his intention is to use the R1 million, the minimum requirement, to pay as a down payment, and then he's going to get finance. He's going to get finance for the 1.5 million reais additional or whatever he's gonna be paying, right? So again, as long as you bring in the 1 million reais from abroad, you're going to be good. All right, Jerry. I hope that helps. Ronald has a follow-up. Ronald says, thanks for the response. You're pretty welcome, Ronald. Also, if I earn income online, but there is no formal contract with an employer, how could I show that I can qualify for the digital nomad visa? Ronald, there is no work around, okay? Like Brazilian immigration, they are pretty attached. They are pretty attached to the work requirement, right? And some people, they're going to say, well, but I read that if you can present, bank statements showing that I have 18,000 reais in a bank account, that I can get the digital nomad visa. And like it looks to me like that's going to be the client telling us, right? It looks to me that I don't need a contract because I have the 18,000. Our response, like, we would say, listen, if there is no need for the work components, this would not be the digital nomad visa. This would be the 18,000 reais visa, right? Meaning that as long as you have 18,000, you're good. And that's not the purpose of the visa. The purpose of the visa is to allow people who are working to work while in Brazil with a labor relationship cross-border, right? Very important. The employer must be outside of Brazil. And then if the employer is outside of Brazil, if you're not doing anything local in terms of visiting customers or, having meetings with partners, as long as everything that you're doing is through a computer with your employer abroad, that's the type of work relationship that the Brazilian government is looking for. And if they don't see it, guess what? You're not going to get the visa. Okay, Ronald? Jerry, do I have to pay full amount or progress payments? You can pay in as many payments as you want, Jerry. Just remember that you're not going to be able to file your application until you paid the total minimum requirement. Okay, so let's say if you're buying a pre-construction apartment, yes, it is super common for people to pay installments, but until you cross the 1 million reais threshold, you're not going to be able to apply because you have not met the minimum amount requirement. And in my example, like our client with the Ipanema property search, that's kind of similar. He's going to get finance. He's going to pay this property. I don't know. Usually people in Brazil are going to finance for 30 years, just like in the United States. But he's going to pay an initial payment of 1 million reais. So that could be the same situation here, Jerry. Like if you're going to buy a higher amount property, you could, in theory, pay the minimum required amount and then have the balance paid in installments. JLP, welcome JLP. Not sure if you've been here before. If you're not, welcome to the gang. Assuming I live in Brazil on a retirement visa, how much income taxes I should expect to pay on a 2,500 pension? JLP, from last year to this year, there were some changes to the taxation framework, actually many changes. If I'm not mistaken, okay, if I'm not mistaken, it's gonna be something between 17.5 to 25%. And just remember, Brazil has treaties with some countries, potentially reducing or even precluding or even allowing you not to file taxes in Brazil. But let's assume you are from the United States. With the United States, Brazil does not have a formal tax treaty, but it does have what we call a reciprocity approach, in which whatever taxes you are paying in the US, Brazil would take as a credit, would say, listen, because you're paying, I don't know, like 10% in the United States, if I'm going to charge you 17.5, I'm going to say, you know what, you paid the 10%, so instead of charging you 17.5, I'm just going to charge you 7.5%. This is also interesting to people in high brackets because at least as of today, the highest bracket in Brazil is 27.5%. And therefore, if you are coming from the United States with a 30% bracket, or some countries in Europe, very scary, 40%, 50% tax brackets, guess what? Brazil is going to be a piece of cake. And in theory, you would have a zero tax liability because, again, Brazil is going to look at the source of your income and is going to try to understand how much taxes you are paying already, and is going to allow you to claim as a credit. Okay, and this is like a very general overview. And of course, in order for you to make like an important decision, such as moving to another country, most people, they are going to actually set up some type of review for their tax liability before they pull the trigger. Okay, and if you guys need that, you know, you can schedule a consultation with us. Usually the consultation is the first step, and then we can see what we can do after that. But I hope this helps JLP with like an initial understanding of how the tax dynamics work in Brazil for foreign citizens. Jerry says, okay, thank you, Jerry, for participating. If you continue to show up, you're going to become one of our friends here at the live, and I love to see people coming back and bringing interesting questions for us to discuss. Don't tread on me, I don't believe you're here. Oh, that's so nice of you. Don't tread on me, really good to see you. Hi, Luciano, regarding Golden Visa, residency by real estate investment. Can I invest 2 million in a 2 million property? Can my life partner and I split the costs so we both have invested 1 million reais? Pretty good question. Don't tread on me. Yes, you can do it, and it's very common for our clients to do it. So they buy a property that's worth at least 2 million reais, and then yes, they are gonna show up. They're gonna show up on the contract, and consequently on the deed as co-owners of the property, and we're gonna say, you know, like they're buying 50-50. And then because of that, like when the immigration reviews the paperwork, they are going to understand each buyer is buying a 1 million reais worth of Brazilian property, and therefore you're going to qualify. You and your life partner are going to qualify for the Golden Visa. Pretty interesting question, and again, very happy to see you here. Don't tread on me. Ronald has a follow-up question. I earn income from Google, but they refuse to officially issue a formal work contract since I'm earning it digitally. Would documents showing the income from Google be sufficient? Ronald, it would not. Okay, would not be sufficient. So I assume maybe you are like a YouTuber or some type of a creator with income from Google, and unfortunately that would not be sufficient. But if you have an LLC, which I would assume it would be pretty easy for you to have, because if you have income from Google, it shouldn't be difficult for you to have an LLC. like any LLC that you have, you could have a contract as long as the LLC is real. There is nothing precluding you from having a contract between you and your LLC. So the LLC would be the employer, you would be the employee, and then you can draft a contract explaining how you're making money, right? And it could be that instead of being paid directly from Google, Google would be paying this entity, and the entity would be paying you, right? A workaround we see happening in the market is like this: the person has 18,000 US dollars in a bank account, liquid, right? Like, we're not talking about investment. It gotta be money sitting in account. It cannot be a CD, for instance. It gotta be either a checking bank account or a savings bank account. It gotta be money that you can access if you need it, right? So if you have this money, usually Brazilian immigration is going to be satisfied with this money sitting in the bank account plus a work contract. Surprisingly, they are not usually trying to assess from the bank statement if there is money coming from the business into your personal account, right? Because in my head, like, I mean, if I want to know if someone is working, I need to see the company paying this person. That's how I know, the work relationship is legit. But surprisingly enough, for most cases, the Brazilian immigration, they are not going to cross-check. So there is a bunch of digital nomad visas being approved with, just a contract and the 18,000 reais sitting in a bank account, okay? That's what we see in the market. Whenever we are applying, of course, we always apply by the books, but I'm just sharing some dynamics that we know about the digital nomad visa for you to consider. Another thing, Ronald, just a reminder, our experience is mostly in Brazil because when you apply through the consulate, we cannot participate as your legal representative. So when you apply in Brazil, we can actually have like a power of attorney, we have a representation letter. So when we apply in Brazil, immigration knows like you're being represented by an attorney. But when you apply through a consulate, the consulate does not allow us to apply on your behalf. So usually when you apply through a consulate, this type of understanding is not as let's say, common across the applications, because they are going to be actually depending on the interpretation of the legal requirements of the particular consulate, and it's not rare for us to see even like consulates in the same country, like the U.S., a huge country with a bunch of Brazilian consulates. Different consulates, they may have a slightly different understanding in terms of how the paperwork should be presented. So the 18,000 approach plus the contract is usually pretty solid in Brazil. I wouldn't be able to tell if they are going to work across the consulates as well. Don't tread on me. That's great news. Yes, don't tread on me. They make it easy, like for multiple applicants to apply together. And the idea of the Brazilian government is as long as you are investing what you should be investing, they are going to try to approve you. Just a heads up in terms of sending the money to Brazil. Every now and then I'm going to address this topic. There is a certain way of sending the money to Brazil. You cannot send the money any way you want and hope this thing to work. There are requirements for the money, there are requirements for the property, and it is extremely surprising to me when someone shows up and say, well, I bought a property, now I want you to help me with the visa, right? I say, listen, first thing we're going to need to do is to actually review the property paperwork and the currency exchange paperwork to make sure that things were done in a way that is going to allow us to have a shot at securing the golden visa for you. Some very common mistakes. I mean, on the property, you guys probably have an idea. Don't buy rural property. You cannot buy a property that doesn't have a deed. More like kind of common sense things. But on the money side, people are surprised because they are going to send money like using money apps, or they are going to send the money to a friend, or they are going to send the money to their own account. And later on, they're going to buy the property. But then when the immigration says, all right, where is the currency exchange paperwork? They're going to say, well, I don't have it, right? Or here it is, and it's going to show the money coming from them into a friend or into their own bank account. And that's not, at least from the currency exchange perspective, that's not money to buy real estate. Whenever you inform the Brazilian central bank that you are sending money into Brazil for the purpose of buying real estate, the Brazilian central bank is going to require that this money is being sent directly to the seller. Okay, you cannot send it to the realtor, you cannot send it to your friend, you cannot send it to a third party. Money gotta be sent to the seller. Okay, this said, we did have a couple of cases here at the firm. Exactly like I told you, folks would go out there, buy the property, and come to us for the application. And for instance, like this particular couple, they sent the money first to them, and then from their account, they sent the money to the seller. Because they sent in a single remittance, and the time gap between sending the money to their bank account and the time of paying the seller, it was short. The immigration was able to accept this on an exception basis. But when we got to their case, we said, listen, we're going to do this on a best effort basis, and we do not guarantee that you're going to have the results you're looking for. And we actually do not guarantee for any application. But in their case, we even said, there is a substantial chance that your application is going to be denied. Because, again, they didn't send the money directly to the seller. But it was a good surprise that immigration did accept the case. And I believe the reason for that was it was pretty clear that, they sent the money for the specific purpose of buying real estate. If that's not clear, trust me, you're not going to have your application approved. All right, we have Wilbert Bailey. Welcome back, Wilbert. Good to see you again. Oi, Senhor Oliveira. I'm here also and listening. I travel to Brazil next week for 2 months from the U.S. That's amazing, Wilbert. So, did you pick your cities already? Tell us about your plans. Very excited for you, Wilbert. Very excited. All right, Ronald Pennington, the response was very helpful. Thanks. Yes, Ronald, anytime. Very good to hear from you guys. And let's keep the ball rolling. I'm going to ask you for a favor. If you guys could please like our live stream. This is going to help other people to find our live stream. And after the live stream ends, there's going to be a recording on YouTube, and the likes are going to help other people find this content later on. So please do me a favor and just like our live stream now. All right, so addressing a different type of topic. We have some prospective clients coming to us and asking about what's going on with the retirement visa. The retirement visa has changed in terms of required documents around November of 2023 until 2023. We were able to secure retirement visas with just like a regular background check. It could be a background check from the city, from the state level. Pretty much anything official would work. Starting in November, unfortunately, the Brazilian government started to request or to require the FBI background check for U.S. applicants. And the FBI background check is pretty difficult. It's pretty difficult to obtain unless you are in the United States. So if you are in the United States, yes, it's going to be very easy. You can just go to a provider. Like there are a bunch of providers across the 50 states providing services, for the fingerprinting and for the FBI background check application. One of them is going to be IdentoGo. Okay, let me write down over here. IdentoGo is one of the providers not available. FBI background check not available. Truth them in all states though. Okay, but that's an example, and it's just for you to understand that if you are in the United States, you don't need to deal with the FBI directly. Of course, you can just pick one of these intermediaries. They are going to do the legwork for you. Something we are working on as we speak. We are getting the FBI forms. So let me see if I can show you guys the forms from the FBI. So yeah, this is one of the forms. Okay, and you get your fingerprints over here. They even have like the instructions for the applicant. This is from the FBI actually. So we are getting these forms in our offices, more specifically in São Paulo and Rio de Janeiro. And the idea is that we're going to collect the fingerprints while you're in Brazil, and then we're going to send it to our office in Dallas. And then in Dallas, our people are going to handle, like the submission of the fingerprints to the FBI. So our clients don't need to go back to the United States just for the purpose of obtaining the FBI background check. Okay, but that was the nuance I was trying to bring about the Brazil retirement visa. It looks like Brazil is trying to make it more difficult for people to secure the retirement visa, potentially to give it this type of residency more rights than other types of visas. So whenever we see Brazil asking for the FBI background check, we understand that the Brazilian immigration is considering this to be a really high-level type of visa, potentially allowing you to apply for the Brazilian citizenship, which it looks like it is the current interpretation of the Brazilian immigration. Okay, we have Moses. Welcome, Moses. Moses is in his journey towards real estate ownership in Brazil. Correct, Moses? Moses is doing his homework. Moses is coming to our live streams and participating as often as possible. Thank you for showing up, Moses. Moses says, the Brazilian government is supposed to reward you because through your YouTube channel, many people have invested a lot of money into the country. Yes, there is this type of expectation, Moses. You are correct. Is a type of bargain, right? Like, I mean, at the end of the day, it's almost like you're buying the residency, right? Like you're saying, listen, I'm going to invest some good chunk of money in Brazil, and I want something in return, right? So I agree, Moses, with this perspective. However, they make the rules. They make the rules clear up front from the get-go, and I think that if you're gonna invest a substantial chunk of money, you should be doing just like you're doing your homework. So you're not gonna go out there and buy properties, and only then try to understand the regulations for you to secure the residence. It sounds difficult to understand to me, right? Like, why would someone buy a property first and try to understand if this qualifies for the visa later on? So what I'm gonna do here, Moses, first thing I'm gonna share the link for our Golden Visa page, and I'm sure you've been there already. But we have something else. which is one of the most recent versions of the actual regulation in English. Okay, that was done by an intern here at the firm. I apologize if the choice of words is not perfect, but the idea here is to give you like an understanding of the regulation. And if you read the regulation, guess what? There is language explaining, the properties that are gonna qualify and the properties that do not qualify. There is the deed. There is the need for the contract. There is the need like for a statement from a financial institution authorized by the Central Bank of Brazil to operate with currency exchange. Okay, and so there's a lot of things here that just by reading the regulation, and I promise it's not gonna take more than 10 minutes. It's gonna be a pretty helpful for someone in your type of journey. And finally, nothing is gonna, of course, replace advisory by a licensed Brazilian attorney. So that's another recommendation for you, and I hope it makes sense, Moses. We have JLP. Thanks for your live response. You're pretty welcome, JLP. I hope to see you. Don't tread on me again in our live streams. We have Wilbert. Wilbert is letting us know, I've been going to Brazil for 25 years. 25 years. That's amazing, Wilbert. 25 years on 2-week short-term mission trips to many cities. Now that I am retired, I can stay longer. Last month, I asked you about the retirement visa. That's amazing, Wilbert. That's so nice. Like coming to Brazil for 25 years. I think you should get the residency just because of such connection, right? And of course, I'm joking. Like I wish I had the power to grant residency to people, but that's actually a kind of non-legal concept that's still valid for some countries, like Portugal, for instance, right? For some of the Portuguese visas, Portugal is gonna expect from you this type of behavior, Wilbert. So if you were applying for some of the Portuguese visas, your presence in the country, like in different trips, it could be one of the factors to be taken into consideration for the visa granting. Okay, and I'm gonna give you an example. The Sephardic Jews, right? Like in Portugal, there is a special route for Jewish people to apply, and it looks like they're reducing the quota or even phasing out this specific visa for Jewish people. But one of the requirements of this visa is for you to have a close connection to the country, such as been traveling to Portugal for a while. Okay, so that's a very interesting connection, Wilbert, with Brazil, and I'm sure you're gonna find your path to stay in Brazil for good now that you are retired. All right, we have another participant here, which I nicknamed 00000, right? I don't know how to pronounce your user ID, so now your nickname here at the live stream is gonna be 00000. And just joined, hello from Santa Catarina. Yes, thank you for coming back. It's good to see you here, and I hope you are safe and sound. For those who do not know, Santa Catarina is like one state in the south before Rio Grande do Sul. And in Rio Grande do Sul, there was this kind of catastrophe, like with the weather and the overflowing of the two main rivers crossing the state of Rio Grande do Sul. There are more than 500,000 people without homes as we speak. There is a huge effort from Brazilian nationals and foreign citizens as well to assist those in need. Okay, but I know from our last live stream that 00000 is fine, is safe, and I hope you remain like that, 00000. Wilbert Bailey, obrigado. Você é muito bem-vindo, Wilbert, and hope to see you in our next live streams. We have a follow-up from Ronald. Can the Viper visa requirement of 700,000 in the Northeast be done over several properties and over several years, or does it have to be all at once? Ronald, as of today, you can have the minimum requirement met over different properties, okay, and over time. So the dynamics of the golden visa, yes, it does make this feasible. However, I have a heads up for you. The minimum requirement of 700,000 reais has been the same since 2018. So we are like 6 years down the road, and there was like a huge inflation over this period of time, and not just in Brazil, like everywhere, right? Like even in the United States, in my opinion, I see like like whenever they are telling us how much inflation has been going, and it does not look real to me. It looks like everything has at least doubled in price. And interesting enough, if you look at the stock exchange, and if you look at how much any of the major U.S. companies is worth today and prior to COVID, you're gonna see that they are worth double. Okay, so it doesn't sound like a coincidence to me. I believe that inflation-wise, like money is worth today half of what money was worth, back 4 years ago. So why I'm saying that? Because of the minimum requirement for the golden visa, it has been the same since 2018. So because we know that the current administration is pretty, attached to like increasing taxes wherever they can. Like it looks to me that increasing the amount required for the golden visa would be a pretty low hanging fruit, if you agree with me, okay? So if you think about that, my concern, Ronald, with such planning is, although from the dynamics perspective, yes, you can do that, maybe it's not a good idea because maybe you're gonna buy a property now for 350,000 reais, and you're planning to do so another purchase for 350,000 in a couple of years. And guess what? If next year the Brazilian government says, well, now it's not 700, it's going to be 1,200. In this case, then you're not going to be able to meet the minimum requirement with another purchase of 350. Okay, so from that perspective, I think you should consider the possibilities of a correction in the golden visa minimum requirement. Another concern, particularly in the Northeast, Ronald, like transactions, they are always concerning, particularly from paperwork's perspective. Some markets they are very difficult. You see a lot of like a creditor fraud, like people who are going to be selling properties because they are in a bad spot financially. So they're going to rush to sell a property because creditors are start to organizing themselves, to pursue the debtor's property. And I see that happening every single week, okay? So that's just a heads up that transactions in the Northeast is not just a matter of doing, like there is usually a requirement of time on your side because you may need to check multiple properties. There is also a price tag associated with these transactions, or even to review a transaction. So usually I do not recommend you to go shopping around for multiple properties over time. Usually this is better done like in a single shot. That's what we recommend. However, there are some exceptions. Right now we have a client He's buying two properties. Is actually not in the northeast. Is in the north. I don't recall. I think it's Roraima that he's buying, and he's buying two properties from the same developer, right? So I mean, from the vetting, from the paperwork side, from the payment dynamics, is almost like a single transaction, even though he's buying two properties. But if you're buying properties from completely different sellers, that could be concerning because, again, it's not as straightforward as people usually think it is. Something, I hammer all the time. In Brazil, you don't have a title insurance and you don't have escrow accounts, which are super common in the United States. So, in the United States, you bought a property from John, and the property was actually from Andrew. And as long as you paid the title insurance, guess what? Like Chicago Title, if that's your title company, they are gonna reimburse you because they're gonna say, well, you know what? Like you paid the title insurance, here's your money back. Now, if in Brazil you bought a property from João, and the property was actually from Maria, guess what? You're gonna lose your shirt. Okay, you're gonna lose your shirt. And some people are gonna say, well, but can't I sue the guy who sold me in the first place? Yes. And then most probably than not, in addition to the money that you lost, you're going to lose another pile of cash trying to recover the money from this guy without being successful, right? So that's why you really need to do the homework before you buy and not, after you bought, then you're going to, say, well, I don't trust, like these are a bunch of cheaters. No, like you need to protect yourself because, again, there is no title insurance, there is no escrow, right? So in Brazil, believe it or not, like you need to pay the seller first, and then the seller signs the deed of sale. That's how it works across the board. And there are no major banks or major players providing an escrow, okay? Like we have a type of workaround. We try to emulate an escrow, but that's not a real escrow. So at the end of the day, we need to make sure that you're buying from pretty solid sellers, and the documentation needs to be like as good as possible because you need to reduce the chances of a bad purchase. Because once you have a bad purchase, there is no going back in time. I hope that makes sense. So another interesting aspect of the Viper visa is that just like we said at the beginning, you can also work with major developers. And if you're buying apartments from the developers, in theory, you could even apply before the properties are completed, as long as this is a major developer and they have the proper paperwork. Another heads up, Florianopolis, despite being an amazing place for foreign citizens, right? Like we have even like some, videos recorded specifically for Florianopolis because it's an island and there are some other additional historical reasons. It happens that many properties, even new developments in Florianopolis, believe it or not, they don't have the legal deed, okay? And if you don't have a legal deed, then of course this property is not going to be good for the golden visa. And even for you to send the money from abroad, like from the United States, whenever the money arrives in Brazil and the bank is going to say, oh, well, where's the deed? And they're going to say, well, there is no deed. Like, I mean, the seller just have like the possession. Sometimes they have, like the annual property taxes coupon. And the bank is going to say, too bad, I'm going to send this money back to the US because I'm not going to release it, okay? So just keep that in mind. Steve in the DMV. Welcome, Steve. Maybe it's your first time over here. Maybe not. Anyhow, you're pretty welcome. Steve is saying, I am interested in a consultation on obtaining a Brazilian visa prior to property purchase. What is the cost for the consultation? So, Steve, I'm gonna share. I'm gonna do two things. Okay. First one, I'm gonna share the form where you can basically just go and schedule the consultation. Okay, and in addition to scheduling the consultation, we also have specific coupons for discounts on our consultations, right? So if you need a coupon, you can send an email to this email address and saying the type of visa you are looking for, and say you want an ebook with the consultation discount. Okay, and then what we do, like we add you to one of our lists, and then you get an ebook specific to that particular visa with a discount coupon. For those of you who had the consultation with us and didn't have a discount, don't worry, because at the end of the day, it does not matter how much you paid for the consultation. The amount that you paid for the consultation is applied as a credit to our services, right? And some people, they say, well, but do you charge for consultation? And I say, yes, we are lawyers, we are not realtors. So we do charge for the consultation. And something interesting for you to know, it's actually forbidden by the Brazilian Bar Association for Brazilians or Brazilian attorneys to offer free consultations, all right? And we actually inform this, like whenever we get requests, right? Like people send like a laundry list of questions, like answer these 20 questions for me, okay, free of charge, just because maybe I'm gonna be your customer one day. And we say, listen, we can do that, right? Like you need to schedule a consultation, then we're gonna review your case, and then we're gonna tell you what we advise in terms of path, and then you're free to consider the plan. And if you hire us, then the amount you paid is going to be applied as a credit, okay? But you can have all this information, Steve, like in the links that I sent you, and I hope this is helpful. 00000, what are the regulations and taxes expected to form a software company in Brazil? What type of formation do you suggest for a small startup? I would appreciate your insight on the overall process. All right, so it looks like this is going to be probably our last question for the day. I'm going to answer 00000, and I'm going to ask you guys for a favor. If you haven't liked our live, please like as we speak. This helps other people to find the content, and it helps after the live stream. This is going to become a recording, and the likes, they are going to help people find the recording as well. And I appreciate it's important to us. And now let's jump right into the question from 00000. What are the regulation taxes expected to form a software company in Brazil? And the first part of the answer is, if you are forming this entity as a legal resident in the country, it's going to be much easier than it's going to be if you are still just a foreign citizen, okay? Because if you're just a foreign citizen, you're going to need to get an apostille for all your documents. You're going to need to sworn translate a bunch of documents, and this is going to be costly, and this is going to take time, okay? So maybe just for the apostille and the sworn translations alone, you would spend something like $1,000, and potentially an additional $1,000 to form the entity properly, with sound legal advice. And so just right there is a couple of $1,000, right? Now, if you are a legal resident in Brazil, let's say if you go for the golden visa and then you have the golden visa, then you're gonna have this entity formed almost as a Brazilian. And instead of paying $2,000, you're not gonna pay more than, I would guess, $700, $800 US dollars, okay? So much less. And in terms of turnaround, instead of waiting for 3 months for this thing to be completed, you could pretty much complete this thing like in 20 days. Okay, so it helps with the cost, and it helps with the turnaround as well. Tax-wise, like again, if you're counting on proper legal advisory, you could have what we call the Simples tax regime. The Simples, which translates as simple in Portuguese, it means simples. You could have rates starting as low as 8 or 9% over your revenues, And after you pay this amount, guess what? Like the remainder of the money after you pay expenses, in theory, you could receive this chunk of money free of additional taxes on the personal side. However, the catch here is that this is going to be Brazil's interpretation of the taxation, right? And if you are a U.S. citizen, right, the downside is going to be that potentially you could have to pay more to Uncle Sam, because then you're paying too little in Brazil, and Uncle Sam would say, well, I would charge that, and then you're going to pay the gap, right? You're going to pay the gap between the taxes that you paid in Brazil and the taxes that you need to pay in the United States. This is going to vary on a case-by-case basis, but roughly the dynamic is going to be like this. For Brazilians, right? Let's say if you are 100% Brazilian, or let's say if you become a Brazilian resident and then eventually you obtain the Brazilian citizenship, and then you let go of U.S. citizenship, okay? So Uncle Sam is going to leave you alone in terms of taxes. It's a blessing from a taxation perspective, because at least for over like R$500,000, you could be paying potentially 8% of taxes on the entity level. And again, the dividends, the money that you're going to be getting, in theory, this could be tax-free, at least from the Brazilian taxation perspective, right? So it's extremely helpful, right? Like, I mean, Brazil, even though we have a lot of crazy, taxation laws, and as I usually say, I hope I don't sound like a broken record, but the labor framework is horrible. It's like from 1930s. It's something like from a couple of centuries ago, and it should be gone. But actually, the simplest tax regime, it's pretty solid for entrepreneurs. Okay. Yes, and then the type of business formation is going to depend on your immigration status. Some of the simplest, for instance, you're not going to be able to have access to unless you are a permanent resident. If you're just like a foreign citizen, you're not going to be able to access the simplest potentially, right? Like, I mean, of course, a Brazilian CPA should review your situation, but most of our clients who are not like permanent residents, they don't have access to the best or most competitive tax approach entities available in Brazil. All right, so that was my insight. I hope you guys enjoyed the live stream. We're gonna be skipping the live stream on Sunday, and we're gonna be checking if we're gonna have a live stream on Wednesday. Okay, so just this heads up that we're not gonna have a live stream on Sunday. And if you guys wanna check our next live stream, we're probably gonna have it posted. We're gonna have it posted by Friday. So all you need to do is to come to our website. You go to the live. There is a live section, and then you can see our next live streams. And you can just click on notify me, and if you do so, you're gonna be notified about our next live stream. Usually we do it on Wednesdays and Sundays. On Wednesday, just like today, we start at 12:30, and on Sundays we start at 3:30. So if you have any topics of your interest, any questions that you could not share today, I'm going to invite you to come back for our next live stream. I appreciate your presence. A lot of new people over here. Very happy to see you here. Some of you we have met in person. Some of you we have met over a Zoom call. But I love to see you guys over here. Again, please like our live stream, and see you again next time. Have a blessed rest of your day.